Hey friends, it's Melvin. Thanks for tuning into this episode. Here's just a few quick things I wanted to notify you guys about before we get started. First up, very soon, new episodes will be releasing Wednesday mornings rather than Tuesday. So don't panic if you don't see a new episode on Tuesday. Just wait a little longer and you'll see it in your feed. Second, we've introduced a mailbag. Check those show notes and toward the bottom you'll see a mailbag link. You'll then be able to text us any questions you might have about movies, the movie industry, or any movie/Christian related questions you might have. Then we'll respond in a future episode, so send us your questions now. Up next, Patreon polls, which are available to Patreon supporters at the $3 tier or higher, have been updated. Supporters can now suggest films or shows to be reviewed at the end of each month. The two most liked submissions will become the options for the Patreon poll, so if you want to hear us talk about your favorite movie or show, join our Patreon and start campaigning. And lastly, whether you're a new or longtime listener, please consider writing a review or rating the Cinematic Doctrine podcast on iTunes and Spotify. Apart from financially supporting on Patreon, these are the two most helpful ways to support the show. And that's it. Enjoy the episode. Hey, it's Melvin, and I'm just popping in here to say that we're not doing a traditional episode this week. Currently, the team behind Cinematic Doctrine is preparing a few fun things for the end of the year. This includes a massive Quibi project, a couple written posts about how Quibi came into existence, its launch, its move into obscurity, and ultimate app closure on November 30th. Some text-based reviews on the website for 10 different Quibi shows, all projects that currently are considered lost media, since they were once available but now are no longer accessible by any means, which is something I personally find fascinating and kind of sad. A Quibi episode of the podcast where I tell Daniel about Quibi's start, finish, and its shows, about how the app works and stuff like that. So think a culmination of everything else that's going to be on the website, but in an hour-long podcast special. We're also producing a trailer talk about all the Disney trailers that dropped during that investment call. We're also doing a monthly movie news covering the wild Warner Bros. Announcement that their 2021 release schedule is just going to simultaneously be in theaters and HBO Max during the release, as well as some Spider-Man rumors going around about some sort of multiverse or live-action Spider-Verse. Crazy stuff. And this is all while we are preparing for the upcoming Patreon supporter selected film for the month and many, many other plans. Combine all that with the usual Christmas holiday stuff like decorations, present buying, and other fun festivities, and we just decided that this week we'd take some time off. However, as many of you know, Christopher Nolan's Tenet released on VOD today, and since a fair amount of you are finally getting around to seeing this Nolan picture because you didn't see it in theaters, I thought I'd kindly remind everyone tuning into Cinematic Doctrine that we released a podcast episode on Tenet in September, and it can be accessed by scrolling through our backlog. I'll also have a link to it in the show notes. In the meantime, here's a clip where Carter explains his frustrating yet cathartic experience with Tenet. It didn't click for you. Why didn't it click for you the first time? And I'm assuming that means you saw it a second time?
I did. I've seen it 3 times now. And the first time
let's get through this. How was your first?
Yep.
How was your second? And how was your third?
Yeah, I'll break it down. So first time, obviously I came in with extremely high expectations. Not only was this the first new release that I'd seen since, I believe, Onward in March, but it's a Christopher Nolan release. It was literally my most anticipated movie of 2020, specifically because his kind of filmmaking, speaks to me. I love the spy genre, love the heist genre, love how Michael Mann and sci-fi, it's like they had a baby, and that's Christopher Nolan. He loves Heat, all that stuff, and I love Heat. And so all that to say, I came in with extremely high expectations, and throughout the movie, it's a beautiful, opulent movie like I'd hit on, and it's a spy movie. So I'm sitting next to my wife, and I'm like, why am I not liking this? Why is this not clicking for me? Like, what's wrong? What's wrong with me? Have I gone dead inside these past 6 months not watching a movie? And it was really fascinating because the movie really didn't click emotionally for me until about the last 5 minutes. And we can get into that more specifically later, but it wasn't until the second watch that, because of not only what I knew, but kind of the emotional, philosophical themes that undergird the movie, it's not until that colored the entire experience that I was able to actually enjoy, I was able to actually invest in everything that's going on. Because like I said, it's a spy movie. That's bait for me as a cinephile, and it's a spy movie from one of my favorite directors, but it's also a really dense movie. And I think more than just the mechanics of the sci-fi element of this movie, it's a lot of the philosophical and emotional themes that really hit me, and honestly really hit me as a subscriber to the Christian worldview, as somebody who has been saved by Jesus Christ and loves to look at the world through the Christian worldview, which I believe is the only true operating worldview. And it was something that, while Nolan might not be a Christian, there was a lot of truth to be found in this movie that didn't click until you watch the whole thing. And that's kind of why it's a great, as the title suggests, a great palindrome. It's
interesting.
It gets better with each watch as you can go forward and backward, and that emotion kind of colors the entire second experience.
Now, if you've seen Tenet or read anything about Tenet, you'll know that Carter's experience is not unique. Alongside our viewing experience with Tenet, we talk about its themes of the semi-time travel and predestination aspects of the film, as well as a few collections of trivia about the production behind Tenet. If all that sounds fun to you, head on back through our backlog and press the play button, and you will not be disappointed, I promise you. And I'll also include a link to the episode hosted on the website in the show notes below, as stated before. Oh, and Carter has a written review on the website with some thoughts that didn't make it into the podcast, so check that out in the show notes as well. In the meantime, we hope and pray your Christmas holiday is going well. Praise God for his grace and mercy, and we look forward to finishing out 2020 with some really fun content for all of you cool cats and kittens. Until next time, stay cool. Want some Cinematic Doctrine swag? You're in luck! We've got 3-inch Cinematic Doctrine logo stickers exclusive for Patreon supporters. Perfect for your travel mug or laptop. Head over to patreon.com/Cinematic Doctrine, link in the show notes, and choose the Independent Theater tier. Doing so will net you other perks too. But let's be real, the podcast stickers are the coolest perk. So get yourself some podcast stickers by supporting on Patreon.